Guess who's back? Back again. Always back. Tell a friend. So I finally got to watch season 1 of The Last of Us, and I'm glad I did. It was something about the visual textures of the infected that just did not sit well with me. It was not pleasing to the eyes, but I got through it, and I finally finished season 1, and here I am at season 2. So here we are at episode 1. It's called Future Days. So we started off on episode 1 exactly where they left off at the end of season 1. And that was with the very important statement that Ellie was making to Joel. She said, "Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true." And then Joel paused for a second, like he was mulling over what he was going to say, but he decided to double down. Now, had he really thought about this, he would have said, okay, why is she asking this question? Because she literally asked me this question even though I already told her in the car what happened. She clearly didn't believe everything that he said, otherwise she wouldn't have made such a statement. So he decided to double down, and then it was Ellie's turn to process what she had just heard. You could tell that she processed all that dishonesty real quick before coming back with the answer of, okay, and then kept walking. So then we pop back over to Salt Lake where the leftover Fireflies are mourning their loss. They're talking about why would Joel do something like this? And even the rumor regarding him taking a kid that survived a bite, which they thought to just be a rumor, but that shows how little they actually knew. But either way, they're lost now, and they're trying to regroup and figure out what the next move is. Now, the Brawny Man told them that there was an outfit of people in Seattle that would take them in. Then Abby was like, nah, not until we find Joel. Then the Brawny Man put a little masculine charm on her, gave her a little touch and agreed with her spirit, calmed her down, and said, well, maybe Seattle has resources to help. Now, the crew that was over there with Abby was like, hey, we'll help you kill Joel when the time comes. She was like, let's make sure we do it slowly, though. So 5 years go by, and 11 is 19 at the time. We jump right into a training session where she's fighting some Zangief-looking dude. Now, he pulled his punch, but he was getting handled otherwise. And then after the training session, she walks out into the community. You see people working hard. You see construction crews out there working. Somebody cracks a clay pipe open and has a bunch of roots in it or whatnot. I mean, they really getting into it. And then you go over to a scene where you see Joel is in there fixing breakers, and then Dina walks in. And Dina asked him if he could teach her how to do it. And I was wondering, like, who is this Dina person? And then I got the answer after she asked Joel, why is Ellie so mad at him? And he was like, she's your best friend, which was music to my ears because for a second I was like, is this his new girlfriend or something? Because I was like, she looked kind of young. I don't want no child bride situation. And he replied to her saying, I'm trying, but I can't hold myself responsible for somebody else's emotional state. And then Dina took a little pause real quick. She was like, hold up, you're in therapy, Joel? Let me find out you over there seeing Gail. And Joel was trying to hide it, so he was like, hey, don't tell anyone I'm going to therapy. So Tommy and El Boogie are out here doing target practice with one of the infected. And he told her, hey, I'm going to put you on the gate duty instead of patrol. And she was hot. She was like, why would you do that? I have no desire to be on the gate. Why can't I do patrol? And Tommy was like, well, he's concerned about you. And mind you, last time that you were on patrol, you were pretty reckless. And she argued with him for a little bit, and he relented eventually. And Tommy was like, you and my brother are the same person. And 11 was like, yeah, that's why you know I'm not going to give up on this. And Tommy was like, listen, if I let you do it, you got to make sure you follow the rules and listen to your captain. And she was like, oh yeah, I got you. I'll do it. And based on the way that she replied to that statement, you could tell that that wasn't going to happen. So then we get over to a scene where Joel and Maria are talking and chatting about the needs of the town. And Maria was like, hey, we need to build faster because we can't keep up with the amount of people that keep seeking refuge. And Joel was like, look, I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't let the people in if I didn't have enough space for them. Now, he's right and wrong. And Maria actually got them together toward the end of that conversation because Tommy came in and Joel was getting ready to leave. Maria had to remind him, Joel, you were a refugee once, so don't forget where you started. So then we get over to Joel's therapy session, and he's paying with weed, which is hilarious. But the therapist was like, not you bringing in the stems and the seeds like I'm in high school. And he tried to blame it on the season, but she was like, now, you know, Eugene didn't have this problem. He used to bring me the stickiest of the icky all the time. I built some big and bountiful blunts from what he brought me, year round. I ain't lying. But anyway, payment accepted. Let's get started. And it seems like Joel started where he left off. He was complaining about Elle not talking to him and how she treats him like a stranger. But Dina knows what's up. She chops it up with me on the regular. So then Gail closed her book and decided to be honest with him. She said, you're being boring, talking about the same stuff over and over and over. She's 19, acting like a 19-year-old. It's clear that you're hiding something from me. And Joel was like, aren't you supposed to affirm me? She said, yeah, but I'm not going to affirm a lie. She said, sometimes you got to say things even though it's uncomfortable. And what she was uncomfortable with is the fact that he killed her husband. Now, She said, you didn't have a choice, but I'm still mad about it, and I hate you for it. She was like, now that I got that out in the open, I can't take it back. And now it's your turn to say what you need to say out loud. And she was like, did you do something to her? And he shook his head, affirmative, yes. And she said, did you hurt her? And he shook his head, no. And she was like, then what did you do? And then he was struggling to speak, and a tear was coming down his face, and he eventually stood up and said, I saved her. And then he walked out. So then we get over to the Miller's house, and Ellie is in the garage cleaning her gun and listening to some Nirvana. Lost track of time because Dina showed up to pick her up for the patrol, and she was not ready. Dina was trying to get her and Joel back in a good place because when she saw Elle in all that gear, she was like, you look like Curtis and Viper. I'm actually going to watch it with Joel later if you want to join. And Elle was like, I'm good, love. Enjoy. So they show up to the patrol 5 minutes late, and Jesse said, it's just a patrol recon mission, so don't get into anything foolish. Kat is the QB of the outfit, so act like you got some sense and listen to her. So while they were riding, Dina asked Elle, hey, are you going to the event tonight? She was like, are you taking somebody? And she's like, well, you know Kat's available. And she was like, why did you bring up Kat? And Dina was like, let's be honest. She the only other one. I was like, not you bringing up the only other lesbian in town. Dina hit her with that Sabrina Carpenter talking about slim pickings. And Elle was like, nah, girl. And then Dina was like, well, you could take me to the event, girl. We can go as a date. And seeing that they were back there just having a little fun private conversation, the other three had found a trail of blood and was like, ooh. And they were just kind of standing there looking. So, of course, 11 and Dina had to go take a closer look. And when they got over there, it looked like Yogi and some of the infected had quite a battle down at the fresh market. Because Yogi's guts was all out in the streets. And then one of the cordyceps had just been ripped from limb to limb, literally. So Kat and different face Jake Gyllenhaal pulled up, ready to go. But Elle and Dina just wanted to go inside the building to see if one of the clickers made it in because it looked like a little blood trail. So Kat gave them permission to go in there and look around. And if they see trouble, just come back out. So they go in, they find 2 clickers, they kill them, and then, 11 is kind of playing around for a second and she's walking. All of a sudden, she falls through the floor. Now, it's not quite the upside down, but that's the closest she's going to get to it for right now. Dina was like, are you down there by yourself? And Elle was like, I don't hear anything, but she was not prepared for the Nightcrawler cordyceps. She was stalking Ellie's moves, and then old girl was making these weird moaning sounds. Maybe it was like a painful Aaron Neville or something. So then Elle turned around and said, run at me. Run up, get done up, girl. And then she started getting aggressive. So it made Nightcrawler kind of run around the corner real quick, like, hey! And by the time Elle got over there, Nightcrawler could not be seen. And Elle was locked and loaded, walking slowly. And then Nightcrawler started creeping out from under one of the storage shelves in stealth mode behind Elle. But then she started making a few noises, and Elle heard her and turned around and shot. But that was in vain because Nightcrawler had already moved. And then she attacked Elle from the side like, girl, you tried it, but you got to be quicker than that because the darkness is my ally. And she knocked Elle down, rustled her shirt up enough so she can get a clean, mean bite in Ellie's belly. And then Elle shot her just in enough time for her to get up and notice that she got bit and just cover it up so Dina couldn't see it. And then in the very next scene, you see Elle and Dina sharing their findings with the council. And Tommy was like, so you're telling us that she was smart? And Elle was like, well, I'm not telling you she was doing reading, writing, and arithmetic, but what I can say is she didn't do what they normally do, which is run at me. She attacked like us. She took cover, hid, stalked. And Tommy was like, side note, what part of the rules was going into a building that was uncleared? To which Elle replied, this isn't our first time outside, and had this been you and Joel, this wouldn't have been an issue. And Tommy was like, well, that was different. And Maria was like, how? And I was like, clock it, sis. He chilled out after that. And then she told them to apologize to Kat and fill out their reports. So after their dismissal, the council was like, do we believe them? And Maria was like, yeah, Dina was lying, but I definitely believe Elle. And Tommy was like, well, maybe the smart one is just a one-off. And then another council member said, well, what about the ones that got into it with the Grizzly in the brawl at the barbecue? And Tommy was like, well, it's not like they were a horde exactly, but Maria was like, I've been having a strange feeling here lately that it's way more of them. Now, the thing about this intellectual infected kind of makes me a little nervous for Elle because if it's getting smarter, that means it's adapting. So if it's adapting intellectually, do you think it'll ever adapt to a place where Elle is no longer immune? I didn't play the game, so I don't know what's coming. Because when I looked at that bite mark in her stomach over at the fresh market, listen, I saw some little worms crawling about. And I said, first of all, this is gross. Now, she might not have gotten infected, but I'm wondering if maybe that new strain is more like planting a seed or something that's going to hatch later on. You can't just be out here getting bit all willy-nilly because you don't know what's out there. So back over at the Miller house, Elle is patching herself up and making sure she cuts through the bite marks. Then she was thinking about that joke that Dina told, and she was kind of drawing it in her book. And, she wrote barbecue, but then right underneath barbecue, she wrote don't F it up a few times. So it's clear that she likes Dina in more than one way. So then Joel knocks and asks Elle if she's better, and she says nope. And he asks if she's coming to the New Year's event tonight, and she says, I don't know, but that's probably because she's still just mad at him. But she definitely plans on going because Dina invited her. And then he starts doing such a dad/parent thing. He starts looking around, surveying the room. He was like, hey, have you played your guitar in a while? Then he went over there to look at it and examined it further. He was like, oh, your strings look raggedy, girl. I could have this fixed and turned back over to you lickety split. And then walked out real fast so she couldn't say nothing to him. He's trying to do anything to be attached. And you could tell she wants to talk to him. So sis, if you want to talk to him, talk to him. So they're at that New Year's event, and Elle is just sitting back, watching Dina dance and have a great time. And then Jesse shows up and stands next to Elle, and he's like, Dina's putting on quite a show. And Elle was like, y'all will be back together in 2 weeks, tops. And then Jesse was like, that ain't happening. To which Elle replied, why not? And before he could even get the answer out, Dina pops up over there, drinks his drink, and then yanks Elle over to the dance floor. At first, they were kind of playfully dancing, but then Dina kind of pulled Elle in a little bit closer. And I was like, wait a minute now. What kind of energy you giving off, girl? And Elle just went with it. And she was like, every guy in this room is looking at you. And Dina was like, well, maybe they're looking at you. And Elle was like, nope, they looking at you. And Dina was like, well, maybe they're jealous of you. And Elle was like, for no reason, because I'm not a threat. And that's when Dina was like, oh, Ellie, I think they should be terrified of you. And then she planted this dead fish of a kiss on Elle. And I was like, you didn't commit to that one. And then Elle was like, oh, let's do it. And then the kissing got real. And I was like, oh, so Dina, this is what you were trying to do. You was like, I really got a thing for my lipstick lover, lover, lover. You could have just said that and practiced at the house, girl. So while they were going hot and heavy for a second, old Seth popped up and was like, hey, this is a family event. And Dina was like, sorry. She said sorry twice, which is one too many times, because I do understand that it is a family event and why y'all out here making out. But the second was a little bit too extra, because he didn't care about that family event because he decided to throw in some extra sauce on it, talking about, and y'all in a church, and decided to throw in a word that rhymes with bikes. And then Ellie was hot. She was like, what did you say? And then Joel popped up out of nowhere and got involved in some good old elder abuse. He tossed Seth all the way across that room. And Joel was like, you good, Elle? And she was like, what is wrong with you? I don't need your effing help. And I was like, so it's no longer a family event. Is that what you're telling me? And Joel, fully embarrassed at this point. And he was like, right. And so he left. And she knows she was wrong for how she talked to him. So she's walking home and she sees Joel sitting on the porch playing the guitar. And she looks at him, they lock eyes, and walks right past that man like he don't exist. It looked very cold outside, but Elle was colder in that moment. Family always does it the best. Whenever you want to get your feelings hurt, talk to somebody that's closest to you. So there's still people out here celebrating bringing in the new year, and somebody drops a sparkler. And when they drop that sparkler, it's strategically placed next to that pipe with the roots in it. And in the light of that sparkler, you could see some of the smart strain of the nightcrawler stealthily just in the middle of all these roots in the pipe. So I was like, well, I guess that's some trouble coming. And speaking of trouble coming to the town, we see Abby and crew walking in the mountains, and they see the light from the town. And I was like, whew, baby, I got too much going on at once. So that's pretty much the end of the episode. The season is off to a great start already. This series keeps me on edge. I can't wait to see where the story goes, because I didn't play the game, so I have no idea what's to come. What did y'all think of the episode? Feel free to leave a comment down below. Hit that like button for that algorithm to be algorithming. Share if you want to. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you know when I drop new content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.